In this episode of The Bear Roars, Dan Caruso sits down with Boulder artist Will Day, an architect turned painter whose bold colours and layered canvases tell the story of transformation. Will shares how the 2008 crash pushed him out of architecture and into a creative life he never expected. From painting his way through uncertainty to finding joy in chaos, he opens up about the discipline behind abstraction and why every setback holds the seed of renewal. Set inside Boulder's Black Lab Studios, this episode captures the intersection of art, resilience, and community, and how Will's journey mirrors Boulder's own creative awakening. Let's poke the bear to kick off the conversation.
All right, we have a very exciting Bear Roars because we are on the road, only about a mile away from where we typically film, but we're here at the Will Day Studios, here in Black Labs building, just on the east side of Pearl Street in Boulder, and I'm standing up because I want you to see the chair and the pillow that is appropriately decorated by Will Day, and we'll get the podcast started.
Man, good to see you.
All right, Will.
Thank you.
So, Will, I've had on the Bear Roars some cultural icons in Boulder, a couple restaurateurs, the famous Bobby Stuckey and the also famous, but a little less so, Brian Dayton. And we had some of the music legends from town be part of the podcast. But this is the first time we're going to feature a different type of artist, an artist that's a painter.
Thank you.
And we're doing it from right here in your studio here in Boulder, which you can see some of the background, and we hope to share more of the background as we have our conversation. But let's start with Will. We don't know each other well. Tell me about yourself.
It's well, first, it's nice to finally meet you in person, Dan. Tell you about myself. I've been in Boulder for about 18 years, and I moved here with my family from Los Angeles. But I wasn't always...
Why? Why did you move here?
I wanted something a little different. We were starting to raise a family. I have 2 kids, and my wife and I were like, I think it's time for us to kind of break the mold of the traditional way that we want to raise our kids and think outside the box and find a new adventure.
Well, I'm going to do a little public service announcement for all of our LA viewers of the podcast. Get out of LA and move to Boulder, because Boulder has got a cultural scene that is beginning to re-blossom into an iconic scene with the Sundance Film Festival coming here, the recent Roots Music Fest. A lot of creative tech companies are launched here and are growing. A couple that are film production shops, one of the more successful gaming studios, as well as some of more deeper tech portions of creative tech, such as Owl AI, that just got funded here in Boulder. So the LA crowd, this is your opportunity to leave LA and come to Boulder.
I mean, I think I appreciate that, because this space and Boulder and Colorado specifically taught me how to be creative and how to go after my dreams.
How so?
I think, the question always is, how did I end up becoming an artist? It's like, I didn't want to be an artist. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be...
Well, I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. Right. I wanted to be an artist. So
I didn't know what it meant to be an artist. How about that? So I think without getting too far off, Boulder was a place that kind of rose to my personality and my energy and my frequency. And it kind of helped me guide me to becoming this full-time artist, which I never thought I could do. Mm-hmm. And I know, like, your audience, and you might hear this, it's like you have to go to a place where you have to be uncomfortable and have to be very vulnerable. I moved here with my kids right before the crash of 2008, and that was scary. A lot of us can understand. Mm-hmm. And I think it was a moment in time where I said it's about time to find something a little different. I wasn't painting when I moved here. I was an architect.
And 2008, 2009 became known as the Great Recession. So it was a severe downturn.
Severe. And so, one of the things we'll get into, we have all these experiences in our lives that sort of give us meaning and purpose. And I think before I even moved here in 2008, I think my first wake-up call of why am I doing this was, I have to bring this up, was my wife was in Tower 2 of the World Trade Center. and she survived.
Wow.
And the second plane went into her conference room on the 78th floor. She was late. I bring this up not because of the dramatic emotional feel of this, but it was a life-changing event for all of us.
Who did she work for?
She worked for Baseline and Equity Research, which then was bought by Thomson Reuters.
And how many of the Baseline employees were?
Oh gosh, I don't remember, but I think there were numerous.
Yeah.
And I think the reason I tell that story, she doesn't like me talking about that as much, but it's really about what do you do in times of change and challenge and chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And so without me knowing, I knew, like most of us, we have to do something a little different in our life. And I left the world of finance. I worked on Wall Street for a while for Mayor Bloomberg, and that's where I met my wife. And that was a time where I left and I went back to get my master's in architecture just before 9/11 happened. And so that was a shift. And so there are many points in our lives, each one of yours and mine, that we have to either relish or learn from. And that was certainly a very dramatic, dark day, but we all have opportunities to find some kind of joy and peace. And that's when I started thinking about maybe I could be a creative spirit.
Yeah. I don't have stats to back this up, but intuitively, it feels like the most creative progress is made in the wake of a disruptive situation. I think when things are going well for a number of years, a lot of people lose their creative edge because they're enjoying the fruits of the last 5 years. But when things come across that are massive disruptions, you see a wave that follows that of huge opportunity. And I feel like that's happening right now in the wake of COVID. I think you're seeing all kinds of real creative, both in the tech world and in the non-tech world, a lot of creativity kind of take off at an accelerated pace.
And I think that's important to recognize. And each one of us are creative spirits, right? We're all different levels, technology or fine arts or
music.
Or music.
I just wrote Stretch, so I'm a musician now.
Right. So that's, to me, it's beautiful because we can change no matter how old we are. Like, for me, it's about constantly evolving and discovering, and more importantly, trying to be curious. And as you talk about these times of disruption, how do you find joy? Because those moments will pass. And do we want to hold on to that anger and all that destruction and terrible things have happened? Or do you want to find a little pathway to express yourself, either through music or through art?
So as I look around this studio and see some of your art, has your art reflected kind of the mood of, I'll say the country, but the mood of the country as you were experiencing the different ebbs and waves? Does your art reflect that when you're?
I think the bigger
mode?
question is, yes, it's the emotional experiences of the world around me, right? So it's not my country. It's the idea that we all live in this place that is always changing. I don't care if you're in Africa, if you're in the United States. We know the world is chaotic, and so I capture these moments that are moving in time, and I choose joy. Other artists choose a lot of different things. So for me, it's more of a seasonal expression. Right now, we're moving in the fall. So yes, I am hitting the expressions of what fall feels like, but also I am encapsulating all my years of experience.
How does that work as an artist? Does it work where, hey, it's fall, I got to use different colors, or does it more innate than that? It's like I find myself using different colors and creating something that just happens to be driven by the season that we're in. So how much of that is a conscious, I got to shift gears to? It just sort of happens.
I think that's a great question. It's just, for me, it's in tuned. I'm in tune to the mood and the feelings of Mother Nature. And right now, the colors that are singing to me are more fall. Mm-hmm. Now, this is year 17. I've been painting full time, so my cycles have been pretty interesting as I look back. But to answer that question, it's really more of it's an emotional connection to what is singing out there, and what's singing out there are these different colors that are very stronger and fall-like.
Is it primarily or only just have to do with kind of the changing seasons that you're feeling, or does it have to do with the changing times, other kind of macro events?
100%. Like remember, every painting has a story. And so all those macro events, from my emotions from 9/11, for me growing up in Connecticut and being from a divorced family and having a lot of different issues, I think parlay into how I create. And so you may not see, hey, there's death or there's suffering or all in this, but I'm using color to map that visual and let you dive into that and experience it yourself. I'm a conduit. I'm a conduit to create these emotions and stories for that are in the past, the present, and the future.
Yeah. As I look around the studio right now, the one that strikes me the most, or maybe the co-most, the most is probably the one back there, and then the one to the right. And I think that tells a little bit about kind of, my wife and I have similar art tastes, I think, but it tends to be ones that look a little bit more, chaotic that we enjoy. Like if you come to the house and I show you some artwork, you'll see stuff that typically has images in there, kind of, I'll say people, but they're very distorted people quite often, or the setting that they're in is, it's not a portrait of someone in a natural setting. It's individuals in a very artistic setting, sometimes in a positive mood, sometimes not so much, or it's just very, I'm not good at using terminology for art, but where you could tell they're sort of like people, but they've got noses in weird places and stuff coming out of their heads, that kind of thing. So maybe talk about these two pieces of art, but pick one of those two maybe and
tell me a little bit about it. It's funny because we just met. You've never been in my studio, so I'm always curious to see what you are attracted to.
Actually, I have been in your studio. I don't think you were here.
Okay,
but I came and visited Black Labs and got a full walk around. And this was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. But if your art was in this room, I was definitely in this room looking at your art. But I don't think you were here when we did that. Maybe before we talk about the two pictures, talk about Black Labs and what this facility is and why you're here in this facility. Right? Yeah.
So I think that's been really important and instrumental in my growth as a business and art. So originally Black Lab Sports back in the day was founded by J.P. O'Brien, and he's a good friend of mine. And he had this concept of this community, this multiverse of entrepreneurs, innovators, and creatives all being together. And so he tapped me and said, well, I'd love for you to be in this space. And I said, I want to be in a space that is dynamic, that's always changing, evolving, and then can suit my my desires to paint large and big. So JP was kind of the individual that I kind of set me up to be in this space. And there are so many different types of tenants in here. And so what I love mostly about this is the community. So
there's a full workout facility here that people come and bring their clients and do private workouts. I remember there being a cold tub in here. There's certainly a tech working space in here.
So there's quite a few different programming. You got athletic training, you've got small businesses, you got small offices, you got a massive studio space, you've got a film production area. And so really the interaction between culture and I think creativity is what really drives me. And this is not just about being a painter, and that's why I love this space. It's not one-dimensional. And I'm not a one-dimensional painter. I just don't paint on a canvas. We all tell different stories. And you and I have, briefly just talked, and we could see that our life is not dictated by our one job or one experience of selling a company. Our experiences is about so many other things that we're making impact in music and art and sports and more importantly is your health. And so this space has been able to, make me think a little differently about all that.
Yeah, both physical and emotional, mental health, all
Correct.
Above. Great. So tell us about that picture, because that looks less about positive health than some of these other ones.
So what you're seeing here is a collision of kind of the seasons coming together, and this is really it's late fall into winter. And to me, it's a ladder of climbing through different challenges in life. And so this is 11 by 11 painting. It's a very large square mixed media piece, but it's purely raw. Like when I tack that canvas, I don't have anything in mind. The canvas speaks to us, right? And so this is me. It's kind of like this idea.
Tell me more what that means.
Yeah.
Because you say right, and I'm like, I don't know. I never done it. I don't have the same instincts and creativity that you have. So, when you say you went and attacked that, so it's a blank canvas.
Very good question.
What begins to happen?
So what happens is I roll the canvas out, the raw canvas, on the floor.
Okay.
I walk on it. I look at it from many different point of views. Being a former architect, it helps me dramatically understand how to build. Painting is really all about building layers of emotion, layers of stories. And so, you're looking at this from a very vertical point of view. It's stretched. But really what I do is I'll just roll out the canvas and I let it speak to me and I start playing. And so that's when
do you and it'd probably be unfair to ask you to put yourself in a position where it was that particular canvas, but do you, when you're doing that, does the mood start to jump at you? Or do you enter it with, I've already got an idea of what I'm trying to capture?
I love that question because there's sometimes like, oh, I've got the right idea, and I jump into it, and I try to hold on to that idea, and I'm like, that's not the way this works.
Yeah.
So once you learn how to get rid of that ego and that control, that's when the magic happens.
Okay.
And that's exactly what happened here. I painted over that many times, and so just think of it as a ladder. You're climbing up these different levels of challenges. And each point, there's an opening for you to enter. And for most of us, I'm trying to say that being an abstract artist, the goal is not to make it obvious. The goal is to know that the world is always constantly moving and evolving. And that's what I want you to understand in my paintings, that it's not still, it's dynamic. And it always evolves and grows. So the black is a very strong gestural marks. And so that obviously is just in position with the lighter blues and softness to show you that the world is sometimes, it's not just always rosy. And so it's helping you find these, I think, cascades of opportunities for you to kind of walk into it and enjoy it and rest, but also be challenged.
Yeah. And when I look at that, particularly the top half, I'm seeing kind of a deep, dark forest. Now there's nothing there that is a forest.
Yeah.
But that's sort of, I'm seeing like a haunting forest. I almost see on the right there, that elongated is kind of a shadowy, body. And then in that top right corner where there's some more jagged, distant kind of what I see as objects, that's where I think the forest, like you look, you're back in the distance, there's this darker forest there. In the middle, there's some elements of that on the right top. So there's this distant kind of forest that you're starting to see through and see some kind of spookiness going on there. That's what I'm seeing.
But I think each piece has has a narrative, right? And to really get into more of the depth of the emotional experience of expressing yourself, for me, it's taken me 17 years, right, to get to that place. But, I'm 54 years old. Each one of these paintings have every single one of my emotions and experiences in it, And so I think the challenge as the artist, there's no one masterpiece we create. It's the body of work. It's the legacy we want to sort of make sure that we tell the world. And each year, it gets better and better. And so it gets more expressive and hopefully more emotional and more intense, depending on what we want to share.
Yep. And so we're going to come back and talk about this one next, if that's okay. Maybe I'll let you pick one too that you want to talk about. But let's go back to you and your story. You're in LA.
Yes.
You've got young kids. Your wife, I think, initiated, let's go somewhere else to raise her. Did you initiate that?
I think we were young. I think everybody has a place where they have to figure out, hey, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Where and what is going to serve us and really, provide. And so Los Angeles we loved it. We had such a great experience.
And where were you at in your artist journey after architecture school?
I wasn't anywhere.
Yeah.
I was working for an architectural firm called Gensler, which is a great global corporate architectural firm in Santa Monica. And that was amazing. And that's kind of was my stronghold into the world of creativity. And it was from Gensler that kind of woke my creative spirit up when I was on the job site, working on a building, Avenue of the Stars. You probably know that downtown. And Gensler was commissioned to, build this amazing structure. And so I would be managing some of the projects, and I would go to the spots, and I'm like, wow, look at this place. Look at these buildings. Look at the drywall. Look at all these tools. It was so textile. I'm like, I got to get my hands dirty, because I was doing all this AutoCAD drawing stuff. I'm like, I needed to get my hands dirty. And I remember one day after coming home from the job site in Santa Monica, I went to the art store and bought this raw canvas, and a big one, and then stapled it to the back of my garage.
And what was your artistic experience prior to that? So prior to buying that canvas, had you played around with art in the past? Did you do anything semi-professionally in the past?
So I've always been interested in art. I took art classes in college. One in this freshman year. I just had an innate ability, a God-given talent to visually see and create and express myself on canvas through photography, through painting, through drawing. But that was a hobby. I thought everybody could do that. I was like, "Isn't this great?"
Not me.
So Dan, I think that's a really good question. It wasn't like I just woke up and all of a sudden everything just changed. It did, but I think the bigger question is, each one of us, God created us for this amazing place to express ourselves, and we all have creativity. Your job is to unlock that. And how do you unlock that? Well, through different experiences and through different opportunities. I didn't know I was creative like that, but until these disruptions hit, that's when things really changed inside me.
So one of the artists whose artwork I really appreciate, I don't know if this is a safe zone to say it, because the individual didn't grow up to be an artist. I think he grew up to be a playboy. Then he turned into being the president of the United States for 8 years. And then in his post-presidency, George Bush began to do art. And he doesn't sell it. I'm sure it's going to be worth a fortune in his estate or wherever he gives it to after he passes. But I find his art to be just fascinating. When you hear someone like that who didn't really pick up art until, gosh, he had to have been, in his 60s perhaps when he first started producing art, but it's been just fabulous.
I mean, I agree. I love what he's done, but I also bring up Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill was a phenomenal painter.
Yeah.
Great impressionist. Why do you think he did that? It was his way to calm down in the storm. Yeah. In times of chaos, the question for each one of us, what do you do to relax? Yeah. For him, he was an incredibly gifted individual, super curious about the arts and the world around him. I mean, I'm amazed that people can put themselves in a place to really relax in times of trouble. George Bush, I love some of his portraits, great storytelling. He has this amazing book of all these amazing different individuals
signed by him,
and I think that's terrific. I think for me, the legacy for.
Well, one more thing about George Bush. Yeah. I don't know this to be true, and I haven't heard anyone else say this, but I've always imagined where he's coming from is he probably carries an enormous weight in himself about the decisions, in particular around Iraq and all of the people he put in harm's way, all the people who lost their lives, not just Americans, but Iraq and Afghanistan, etc. Afghans, and I've got to believe that that's a way for him to cope with mistakes that I think even he agrees he made, particularly with Iraq war. That's got to be a big part of his ability to stay sane, maybe forgive himself, maybe feel like he's honoring those that he put in harm's way.
Yeah.
And I think it comes across as extremely genuine as well. And maybe that keeps him kind of, because he's had some demons in his past. He was an alcoholic when he was younger. So I think that's got to be more than just a hobby for him. It's got to be a way for him to cope with the rest of his life.
And I would say I don't know him, but I would say we all have.
And I don't either, so I'm making all this up.
Right. No, but just think of each one of us as an individual spirit and soul, right? We all have those. Mm-hmm. George is doing, his thing. You're doing your thing. I'm doing my thing. What we really want to do is keep encouraging, people to go play and be a musician, go write poetry, let that emotion go. Painting does that. It's for me, I come into my vessel, my studio. And so, I have a lot of demons and things I'm trying to overcome because I really want to become a better human being. Mm-hmm. And right now, painting has been one of those ways I get to release that. And I bet, George Bush kind of feels the same way. And I commend him for that. And I commend Winston Churchill for, expressing himself in wartime, painting masterpieces.
In fact, a lot of people think of them as the second and third best politicians ever to turn to art. Of course, followed by Hunter Biden being in the top position. Okay, we'll move on from that one. So you buy this canvas.
Yes.
Up to then, you've had artistic interests. You were doing it more as a hobby.
Correct.
You took some classes, but now you have this architectural experience. You go to art store. You buy supplies.
I go buy some supplies. I buy these, oil paints. I didn't really know how to use them. And I got home and put the kids to bed. They were young. They were 8 months and 2 years old. And my wife's like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm going to go back and start painting. And she's like, that's not cool. And I was like, I know, but I have this passion to really.
Well, why would
express
she
myself.
say that's not cool, and why would you say you?
Well,
know?
I mean, we were joking because she's like, "You're getting dirty, you're getting paint all over the floors. You're walking.
Gotcha.
How do you get oils off the carpets?" And I'm like, I don't know. I'll try to be clean here. And so
it seems like you're doing a really good job of not making a mess.
So I've grown up, and now I can really make a big mess. And I think the message there was, I have such an incredible, supportive wife, Amy, and she was kind of scared about what this new chapter would be. And, I remember I was teasing her, with this. And she's like, that's kind of interesting. That's cool. But you want to make this a full-time job? And so we put that into the back burner for a while. And then after I started exploring and painting as much as I can in the, late hours, we decided as a family to move from Santa Monica in UCLA to Boulder. And that's when things really got crazy and different.
And what do you recall? You must recall
the
first painting that you actually sold. Where was that at, and what were those circumstances? And how did it feel to someone give you money for your?
Yeah, I remember that. It was in my basement. I used to live in North Boulder on Quince Avenue, and I had this awesome unfinished basement. And I remember when I started to paint. I started to paint because it was basically, I lost my job in 2008, like a lot of people. Then I went down in the basement, and then I started painting. And I was like, wow, the light came on. I felt this wonderful opportunity for me to do something different. And that first year in 2008 was the time I sold my first painting to a wonderful couple here in Boulder. And I remember they wrote me this check, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's validating."
Yeah, did you run to the bank and cash it?
I mean, it wasn't hundreds of thousands of dollars yet, but it was the act of exchange of trust. They say, "I believe in you, Will." Yeah. And so it was really more of like a.
What was the?
It was a flower painting. It was acrylic on a wood panel. And it was smaller piece. I think it was 24 by 36, and it was vertical, and it was just this wonderful kind of collection of flowers and lilies. And it was very joyful and peaceful, and it was really more action painting like Jackson Pollock.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little more what that means, the action painting.
So action painting is more like I'm a very spontaneous.
But you could see that in several of these pieces.
And so I've moved.
I want to talk about that one too, by the way.
Yeah, that one's pretty.
That one I still haven't gotten a good look at.
So action painting is more like the drip, right? It's more the heavy paints that you pouring, like Pollock and Helen Frankenthaler kind of mastered a lot of it. And so it was more of being spontaneous. with the paint doing it. You're seeing me manipulate a lot more tools on the canvas. This was more throwing it. And so it was liberating because I wasn't steering it, I wasn't directing it, I wasn't trying to change it. I just let it ride. And so that was kind of fun.
But if the first one had a lot of imagery in there, flowers, I'm looking around here and I don't see any examples of that. Well, I guess I do over there. By the way, who's the person in that picture?
That's my mom.
Oh, very nice.
And my mom is that was painted by my uncle, who was a famous portrait artist. So my mom was very heavy into the arts, and she was the one that always encouraged me to kind of go and paint. And on my birthdays, on January, when we were back from school, she would always take me to the museums in New York, and that's where I really sort of came alive. But my mom, she's passed, but she was a major figure to encourage me.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Good deal.
So keep on.
But the first one you actually painted, flowers.
I painted flowers, Dan. I used that. Everybody starts with flowers. You kind of have to start with that. So it was like, and it's kind of fun to have that, I think, confidence. And then once you sort of figure out what your style is, then you start evolving from it.
So take us through the evolution. When you were first in the basement, that was happened to be a piece that sold the first, but probably not the first one you did. It was they probably chose from many. What were those early paintings like, and how did that begin to transition to what we're looking at in the studio right now?
I think it was early. It was so new to me, and so what I would do is did a lot of quick action paintings with heavy acrylic paints, a lot of pour and dripping. And I would be painting on the floors. All my floors were all packed with canvases. And then once I kind of mastered that, then I started moving into oils, which is really fun. It's a very different type of patience. And oils has got this viscosity that's just so pure, and it takes a long time to come up with the imagery. And so the evolution is basically me painting very fast, very quickly in a large body of work, and then kind of slowing down after year 2 or 3 and finding different ways that I can really use colors and manipulate tools. And so I painted in the basement for about 2 years, and then I moved.
And do you work on a piece and finish it? Or do you work on a piece, move to another piece, move to another one, come back?
Great question. I'm constantly working on a lot of different things. And I know that sounds a little goofy, but it helps me because I don't want to get frustrated.
Yeah.
So if I'm really bummed or I'm painting mud or it's not working, I'll go to another canvas because that's a new story. So I'll enter in differently with different emotions and moods depending on the situations that are affecting me and my anxiety that might be out in the world. So constantly, you can see and hear, there's always a blank canvas. There's always something new for me to address and really tell a story. So just think of the evolution. Working in the basement totally was enlightened at that moment at a very dark time of a lot of disruptions and chaos in my family. And that helped me kind of see through the challenges. And I think I'm grateful that my family stayed with me, and they trusted me. Even though my kids were really young, they didn't know what Dad was doing, but my wife knew what was going on.
Yeah.
This was not pretty, and I only share that because painting and running a business and.
Can you share anything more about when you say it was a?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of our stories where we were both. We were surprised that I was laid off, and this wasn't the world and life we wanted. So there was definitely, conversations about, separating and finding our own ways because I was not providing the way that I thought as a man should provide. And then we actually, one of the greatest things, we came to faith. We started going to church, and both of us started to have this wonderful relationship with God, and that changed everything. Mm-hmm. And that brought us together, and we had that common bond to find love again and respect each other.
Oh, wow.
So that was everything. All this is like secondary.
Yep.
And then, with that comes a lot of new challenges because your eyes are open and you give yourself to the Lord, and you say, hey, I'm ready to see the world differently. I'm ready to act in accordance to figure out ways that I can be a better human being. And I trust. And once we both agreed, our lives changed.
Yeah. So I come from a religious upbringing,
Okay.
Catholic, very deeply embedded, in my grandparents' lives and my parents' lives, and pretty much my broad family. But somehow, when they were handing out the religious genes, they passed over me because I never got them, and still haven't. Love the history of religion. I respect people who have strong religious beliefs, but for whatever reason, that has never been like part of who I am. It's just never, it just isn't. I don't think you can fight that or pretend if it doesn't feel
Right.
natural. Because I'm certainly in, I think, the minority of people who feel that way, but it's always appreciated by me to hear people talk about their experiences with with religion.
Yeah. I think just the big picture is like we're all called to do something.
Mhm.
I did not want to be an artist. I didn't, I thought I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't know what that responsibility meant. And I think when I started to really doubt myself, that's when, my life changed, where I said, I need help. And that's where my wife and I said, all right, before we get divorced, let's give it a shot. Let's trust what God has created between you and me as husband and wife to really shine and raise our kids in a way that's really about love and kindness.
Mhm.
We weren't doing that. And when we
Yeah.
committed to that, things changed.
It also strikes me that you seem like a social person. You're an atmosphere here that you could walk right out the door, see other people, interact with other people. But at that point in your life, if you were in your basement, you were spending a lot of time by yourself.
Yeah.
And if it's basement, it presumably didn't have much windows shining sunlight into the basement.
Yeah.
How was that progressing from a world where, as an architect, you're probably interacting with people frequently to largely being on your own for, I imagine, big blocks of time?
Yeah, Dan, that's hard. It's hard being an artist or being an entrepreneur, and you're on your own. I mean, I know you've experienced that, and for me, having a studio in my basement was tough. I was below the family, and when I decided to get out and move into a space like this, that was a game changer. Even now, here, there's a little darkness, but I have access to a lot of light, and that's kind of made me feel a little more happy. But yeah, I think we all have to put ourselves in places that really we don't know what we feel like in certain spots. And so the dungeon in my basement was the wake up call.
So how long were you painting in your basement before it started to come upon you that, not I could just sell one painting, but that you could sell paintings and make
I
a
think
career out of it?
Great question, Dan. So the story is, it's not like I just started selling paintings. So my wife and I were really struggling, emotionally and financially. And she goes, this is not going to work. And I said, I know, I'm a little scared. Like, just quit my job, lost my job. I've been fired. I don't know what to do. And she goes, well, if you're going to run an art business, if you're going to be an artist, you better run a business. So I was like, all right, with that said, I was like, all right, I'm going to put together, from my past experiences, a board of directors. So I chose 5 to 6 board of directors to sit on Will Day Art and help me understand what I need to do to raise money or run a business. And so the big idea for me was, how do I get income every month? And so one of the board members says, Will, why don't you lease art to our companies? We'll generate revenue, you'll produce product, and you'll have money every month besides selling art. So that was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, steady stream.
It's a steady stream of money. So, I mean, it wasn't about the money, it was about being a realist. But also, I wanted to be a professional artist.
Mm-hmm.
So that group of 5 to 6 were instrumental in helping me network.
Well, when you went to them and said, hey, I got this thing,
they're like,
doing art in my basement.
They're like,
why don't you be on my board? They're like, hey,
what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I know you appreciate this, is just, you gotta take some risks. I told my wife, give me 2 to 3 years max. And if it's not working by 2010, 11, I'm out. But if it is, you're ready for this is going to be a crazy run, because there's no playbook to be a professional artist.
It's very time consuming for an artist to put their art in front of potential customers. I mean, that you want to be an artist, but how did you get people to look at your art? Because you probably have to rely on yourself in the early stages for that. And that, I go to, summer festival and there's, tents set up and art in the tents, or in Aspen or Vail, and you walk through art, studios, and, there might be one other person in there that's looking at art, or it might not be anyone, and yet there's someone in front there who has to, be ready to talk to whoever comes in.
Yeah.
It strikes me as there's when you're trying to sell art, particularly as an unknown artist, that can't be easy.
It's not easy, but I think what the big question is, I did a lot of art fairs, right? I went out there and hustled. And then I realized, like most entrepreneurs, you got to do it a little differently. I'm not going to succeed, and it's just the way my lifestyle is doing that. So I had to think a little differently and go beyond kind of the typical path that the artist says. I go to a gallery. I've got a master's in art. I'm going to go to these art fairs. I'm like, that. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
So I had to do stuff very differently, and to run my art practice and really make it a viable lifestyle.
What did you do differently?
I mean, the different thing is hiring people, art consultants, brokers, and having a board of directors. And then going to being strategic on partnerships, on what fairs I go to, or how to have events where we sponsor things together. Remember, I think you and I talked earlier, I'm not just a painter, right? I'm a resource for creativity to inspire not only myself, but the people around me to think differently. And yeah, am I going to sell $1 million painting or $100 million painting or be in the Museum of Modern Art? Maybe. But right now, I'm using art as a platform to really talk to people that what can you do differently? And like, I can't believe you run an art business. I'm like, I know. I am so grateful, but I guess it's surrounding yourself with the right people. It's having motivation, putting yourself in vulnerable situations, knowing when that you're going to fail and fail fast, and don't be afraid to fail, and give yourself some grace.
Easy to say, but I'm afraid of failing. And you think I would get over that at some point, but I still feel that way. Frequently.
I think we all do, because we reach certain levels. Think about, like how you've overcome your obstacles as a business individual, and now, an artist, a musician. Like, we're failing, but then you're getting to a place that if you didn't take risk and chances, you would never be here. Mm-hmm. And so to me, sitting with you is really, it's powerful, because you understand what it's like to put yourself in a very vulnerable situation, be alone, to lead, but also execute. And
talk more about putting yourself in vulnerable situations. Like, when you're saying that, what does that mean for you?
Great question. So imagine this. I'm fully exposed to the universe. Social media, I'm presenting myself every second of the day to the world, and everybody can comment. Mm-hmm. And so that takes some really thick skin to deal with, because every day people are going to say, I know a lot of CEOs and different executives and companies are producing products, and they get complete feedback. But this is me. This is my soul.
I was not sure that you feel that way too.
I know. So we're connected to our product in a very organic way that is so spiritual. And when someone hits you, it hits right to your heart. Mm-hmm. And so I remember one time, the most famous art critic in the universe, Jerry Saltz, went and took 10 artists and just chew them apart. And I was one of them. That was really painful.
And why?
Well, I was an easy target. Abstract painter. He doesn't know what he's doing. I'm not represented by whatever. That's a great question. I don't know why. I don't know him. Why did he come after us? So that to me was, I was like, okay, cool. He saw me. I'm recognized. But it was a motivator.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're in your basement, you're painting, you've got a number of paintings, you sell one. I imagine still a period of time is going by, and you're still uncertain whether you can sell enough to make a living, make a career, keep your marriage together, stay in Boulder. Everything's at stake. So take us through those couple years and how you were able to emerge from that, and when it started to reveal itself that, hey, there are people who want to buy my paintings more than just one off, but I could really make a living.
I love that question. I haven't really thought about it as much, but the 2010, after the crash, I said to myself, why am I here? Like, what's our purpose? What's my legacy going to be? Failing at my former jobs? Like, really, is it over? And so I think the fire in the belly was like, I am not giving up. And so having that, because of all the things that have happened in the world, it gave me that desire to say, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win and do it in a way that's loving and kind, with a nurturing approach. And so I think 2010 hit after I started selling
art. So I had
art.
the same sentiment. I'm going to win, but I never had the doing it in loving and kind.
Well, no, I know that, but like, remember, I'm in the art business, right? There's a lot of levels to it, right? So I'm trying to like kill them with kindness, right? Yeah. But like, you and I know that we got to execute.
Yeah, but there's a lot of artists who don't kill them with kindness.
And that's not my approach. But like, I think by having a multi-dimensional experiences with different industries, like you have and I've had, I think gives us an advantage. Yeah. And and I think that really played really well into those early years, where I wasn't frustrated if I didn't get selling art, but I teamed up with the galleries. The gallery started selling art in New York City, Greenwich, San Francisco.
Let's slow that down a little, because this could be the most fascinating part, at least for me. I don't know what other people can think, but I still want to get to that period of time where you're invested. You've been doing quite a number of paintings. You're in your basement, but the sales didn't come fast and furious, I imagine, out of the gate.
No.
So when did the momentum start to build in a way where you went from, did I just waste the last couple of years to, oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to sell these?
Okay.
Take us through a few of those.
So you got to put in perspective, Dan.
Yeah.
This was, I am not turning back. Okay. So my attitude was, I don't care. I'm going to make it work. Mm-hmm. So with that said, I'm not going back to a corporate job. So that was so much instilled in my body, where nothing's going to say you can't do this. So with that,
and was it that were you able to convince yourself?
It was life or death. So
but death was at stake then. I mean, right? It was the stakes were super high, but it couldn't have been. Maybe it was that you knew it was going to be life and not death.
And I think I was second guessing. Remember, after losing money in 2008. Losing a lot of money in different portfolios and everything, I was like, wow, everything can be taken like that. I was like, that's weird. I never had that experience, and a lot of us didn't. So I was like, all right, now I'm going to take something even riskier and be a full-time artist. I'm like, if I can make it in those couple years, from 2008, 2010, I know this is all gravy. So with that attitude of like, well, how am I going to do this? I believed in myself. I knew I had talent. But I had to go seek a market. I go seek players and partners and sponsors. And so what I did was either I would partner with a gallery. I had relied heavily on my board of directors who produce leads and opportunities.
But even the galleries, when you first approached, I had to be like, why would we put your art?
Okay,
who are you?
Question.
How many did you sell?
So you're like, I think the real question is why? Why are they choosing Will? I think the story is, for me, at an early age, I was able to paint at an early time in my career, paint very large. I could paint very efficiently, and I really had a good narrative that was very positive. Mm-hmm. And that was very sexy to a lot of the gallerists, because you can't just buy this at Target, or if you can, these paintings get priced very, very high quickly. Mm-hmm. So I found a niche in the market of my price points. And I think that was really attractive.
What was the first studio that said yes?
The first gallery that said yes to me was...
gallery.
Yeah. My first real gallery show was in Steamboat Springs at the K. Sari Gallery in downtown. And Kimberly Sari saw my work and loved it. And then I had my first show, and I think it was 2009 or 10.
Okay.
And that was like the wake up call. So I drove all my paintings up the Steamboat on middle of the snowstorm in February, around Valentine's Day, scared out of my my head, going up Rabbit's Ear. I'm like, I can't see the road. I got a huge U-Haul,
Got all
1,000 truck of paintings,
all my inventory.
all my inventory. This is my life. Like, where am I going? And so it's funny you ask, because I haven't really thought about that, Dan. But I think that's really important, because it was the point where someone saw something in me, and they were referred to me by a collector. And then that's when I had a wonderful story. And that's when I had my first show. And that's when I started selling paintings in the galleries.
Mm-hmm. And what would the prices have been?
Good question.
In that era?
I remember it was like, prices were from like $750 to maybe $7,500. I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh, that's amazing. But, looking back, I'm like, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You got to trust, because once you start selling, then you move up the ladder, and then you start building the storyline, and you build your brand.
Yep.
And so 17 years later, it's been remarkable.
What kind of price points would we find?
I mean, the price points range from everything from, $5,000 to $50,000, like that up there. And so I don't like giving out numbers, but it's a nice transformation, because now I'm in a different marketplace that, if it's meant, I always say, if it's meant to be, those should be $1 million paintings, but in due time, that will happen.
What's your distribution channels today? What's I imagine a lot more is done via online customers.
Yeah. It's funny how you talk about distribution, which is so important in the art practice. The distribution for me is still, I have a sales director. I've got a couple of galleries. I've got social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, X. I've got different online newsletters, websites.
And who works all the social for you?
I've got people that I've hired locally,
Yeah.
and then the galleries do it too sometimes. So you have to divide up the country or the world and figure out who's going to represent you in different sections of the world. Mm-hmm. The crossover gets a little touchy. Yep. So you have to be careful to manage it properly. Mm-hmm. And I just want to paint. I just want to paint, but I also want to.
What kind of pleasure do you get, if any, with meeting your clients?
Love it. A lot of the questions that we haven't really talked about, I do have these. I do quite a bit of commission work with clients, but also I sell direct, and I have relationships with the galleries that the clients want to meet me, and I really enjoy it. It's one of the most magical things, seeing a painting go into someone's house, or creating a painting for someone that you never expect would buy your painting. The one story I always love to tell is when the Denver Broncos hired me to do Peyton Manning's tribute piece. And that was one of the hardest paintings I've ever do, because Peyton Manning, pretty cool guy. He's got some high expectations.
And you actually, is it here where
it's in the Broncos?
he
He came in here.
Yeah.
He's sitting right here, the big masterpiece right behind me. But watching him unveil, when I unveiled his masterpiece.
Did he know what to expect?
He had no idea, but he knew, because we did, it was set up where I met him. And remember, this is kind of how I do with all clients. It's just he has a little more experience with some of the, his world in sports, right? So we met down in the Denver Broncos. I met him first time ever in the locker room. I had a massive canvas there, and I wanted him to make the first move on the canvas. And I put him in a vulnerable situation. That's not easy to do. I took a risk. He could have hated me, but he's like, all right, I'm in. And so, but I do that with all my clients. Like this painting over here, I'm having the clients come in, and they're going to make the first move on that. So,
and what does that mean?
Great question. Like, I want them to touch and feel the canvas. I want them to say, hey, Will, I want to see what green feels like. Well, put green on that canvas. Let me see what you do. And once they feel it, they're like, wow, this is amazing.
What do you mean put green on it? Do they they actually put the paint on it?
Yeah, put the paint on the canvas.
So they start the process.
And that's what Peyton Manning did. He drew a couple figures, and he started the process. And then I started working from that.
And that's where painting.
Yeah, that's what everyone's like. Did you have that? I'm like, no, that was the commercial. But I was like, everyone's like, is that your painting in the background? No, I mean, this is somewhere else. But so like the question earlier was like the joy of sitting there working and unveiling this emotional experience and story for him to see, it just chokes me up because it's not me. I'm the conduit to say, he trusted me, I listened, and I executed.
So take us through maybe a little bit more about the first conversations you had with him where he trusted you, you listened, which meant he was conveying to you. What was he conveying in the
I
initial
think he was
stage?
conveying that, say, hey, I think this is a cool new opportunity. I'm curious. Where's this going to go? I like the scale. I like how it's unique and different. And I like how you're going to really, you're not a sports artist, but you're a great storyteller. And I can't wait for you to tell my story. And his story was like on the line. When you're on the line and you're making a play call, no matter what it is, and the conversations I had with him was priceless. I mean, I love football and sports, but I'm not coach. And his moment was like, at that clock, when it hits 4 seconds, no matter how bad that play is, you better run it like it's the best Super Bowl play of all time.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I always went around with Peyton and late in his career when he was coming back from the neck injury, and then you bring that to what you just said. He's standing, behind center, going to run the next play. I mean, how does he get out of his head that, if I get hit the wrong way, I'm more likely than anyone else on this field to end up paralyzed, given the severity of his neck injury that he was playing with toward the end.
I mean, Dan, I didn't have that conversation, but yeah, I mean, what I also
I've never heard him
feel the same
talk
way.
about that,
No,
but that's when I remember watching him in those years, like, how can he be putting himself
I
in
know.
this situation? I mean, I get it. You want to play more football. You still can take the team to the Super Bowl and win it, which
Yeah.
he did. But he was, physically, I would imagine, in a vulnerable.
Oh, I think that's one of the best stories. Like he came back. We hear that a lot with either sports people, but business leaders. They come back, and there is a drive that they're going to make it work, and that's kind of like what I saw in him. Remember, that was the same spirit I had. It was life or death for me in 2008, 2010. Like, yeah, I didn't have a physical problem, but I had a very emotional, and I had the world telling me not to do this. The world was telling Peyton, don't go play. You're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, so to me, it's I want to capture the essence of the human spirit, the grit, and having conversations with him. And his storyline was finding creativity in the chaos, right? And that was incredible. And he taught me quite a bit of saying, no matter what the situation is, he's able to find clarity in those moments where everything else blocked out. And he said, we're going to execute.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do that every day.
And so and I've seen that picture, but it's not fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
Can you pull that up and do a glance? Because his image is in that picture.
Yeah.
That's why I remember that.
100%. What I love so much about that moment was that there was such a struggle with that painting because I didn't want to do, hey, here's Peyton Manning throwing a ball. I'm joking, but he's like, challenge me.
Yeah.
Put me in a place because the world sees a painting, sees him. When he's looking at the audience and he's the stadium, it's blurry.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much going on.
How would you describe that type of art where there, certainly an image in there, but it's, you use the word blurry, I guess I would use the word abstract, but what would you call that style of art?
I mean, that's really a one of a kind thing. I mean, this is not Leroy Neiman painting, right? He's a very famous sports artist.
Yeah.
But I think that style is really more of a. It's
and that's what Peyton meant by you're not a person who
right. I don't know you.
does art
and
for sports figures.
Yes, he's like, I could go hire those guys all day long.
Yeah.
I want to put myself and yourself in a place that the collision of the uncertainty. I know you're going to succeed. I know you're going to struggle. I'm all in to see this experience unfold. And that was the drive that said, wow, okay, I said yes to things that I'm uncomfortable with. And that's, I think, the message we always got to remind ourselves to do.
Yeah, so it's almost like as I see that picture and hear you talk, he's at the line and he's looking, but what you've captured is this kind of very abstract and complex, uh, uh, landscape in front of him that is probably what you could imagine, that he's standing there and he's seen something very different as a quarterback, but he's got to see all this stuff that's going on. There's there's a stadium filled with fans in the background. There's referees. There's coaches. There's people with cameras, and he's got to see the football field in front of him and anticipate. Okay, I've got to play. There's a defense that is trying to guess what I'm going to do, and I mean that's beautiful.
I appreciate it. But yeah, that's what I always say. How do he was like, put yourself in my shoes. I want people to pretend they're almost at the line. Mm-hmm. What is it like to feel in a moment of chaos, but with calmness? Yep. We all have that in our own informal way. I come in here and I have I have people screaming in my heads. I've got things I want to do. The audience is all over me. Yeah, it's quiet here, but in my mind, I'm on a football field. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly hearing noise. And that's very hard for me, having ADHD and being distracted and whatever. It's tough, but we all know you can get into a flow state. Mm-hmm. And once we do that, it creates this magical thing. Now, Peyton gets to do it. All those quarterbacks, we're doing it all the time.
Yep.
We occasionally, hopefully, tap into it through music and things. So,
well, a big separation, I think, in quarterbacks, like you look at why is, one quarterback who has, fantastic skills, but can't succeed in NFL. Another quarterback whose skills are certainly less, but they do. And I think a lot has to do with what they're seeing in front of them, how quick they can, deduce what's happening, what their options are, the instinct of being able seeing things in their peripheral vision. It's something about how they're visualizing the environment in front of them that makes one more successful than another.
And that's, I think, same thing with artists, right? There's so many artists that are so much better than me, talented in their techniques. But, just like music, as you're exploring, there's amazing musicians. But how do you and I find our own voice and be comfortable who we are and share that in a very authentic way? Mm-hmm. To me, that's success. Not the price tag of what that painting's worth, but it's really, I think, just finding a balance of what we want to enjoy and how we want to share our talents with the world.
Yeah, most people I think that have been uniquely successful, they're trusting their own instincts. They're not hiring consultants, and consultants tell them, okay, here's what you need to do and here's how you need to do it. I think most people I've come across in the tech world, entrepreneur world, and I don't have as many experiences in the creative world, but the true innovators, the true leaders, they're figuring out what they want to do and how they want to do it. Quite often, in a way that's unorthodox to others, but it works.
It works, and I think going back to the original question, when I was first going to these galleries and figuring out what works, I didn't know what worked. I was throwing everything I could out and saying, "Is this going to be popular? Is this going to sell?" And I think the challenge is to really just be in your own, trust yourself, and be in a place that said that you got to give yourself some patience, but also give yourself a time to sort of explore. And I said I failed a lot, and these galleries, not every gallery wanted me.
Yep. So we're going to come back to you in a little bit, but I want to go off on a little bit of a tangent, and I want to talk about the art scene in Boulder. So tell us about what the scene here is in Boulder. Look a little bit backwards in time, look a little bit in aspirational forward in time. What's going on in Boulder when it comes to art?
Good question. I think we all have our own opinions. I think in general, the art scene is very vibrant. It's very supportive. Those are very general terms. So you're like, well, everybody's an artist here. There's so many artists here, which is amazing, right? All different types: musicians, painters, photographers, poets, actors, musicians. But I think the struggle is the community hasn't embraced the way that artists want to be kind of supported. right? And so you're like, what does that mean? It means financially. It means places for artists to show and exhibit. We don't really have any good spots. I'm talking from a fine artist, right?
Mhm.
So I think there is a lot of interest, but we're lacking a lot of like a platform. And I think we as a fine artist struggle with a national scene. We're not Santa Fe. We're not Austin. We're not Los Angeles. We're not Miami. And I think we struggle. And I think one of the things I've learned about talking to you by setting up this new music festival and Roots in this community, you're bringing hopefully a new energy. And I would love to do that somehow with painting and fine arts, but we don't have that yet. We don't have kind of that. We have a lot of wonderful, well, successful people, but everybody leaves to do their shows and get paid and sell their art elsewhere. So I've kept my head down and try to just do what I do best, but I also know that it's important to be part of a community. And just recently, last year, I formed. I was part of a group called Boulder Contemporary Group, and so there's 5 of us that kind of get together and meet and exhibit and show, and that's kind of nice.
Where do you tend to meet and exhibit show?
Great
Where
question.
does that
What does that
happen?
mean? Well, we would meet either at our different studios, either paint, talk strategy, help with sales and marketing, and just the general idea of what's going on in the art world. Last month we showed at the Boulder Museum, which was wonderful. We showed at Rembrandt Yard together. I mean, I think the power is in the community, and I know we've talked a little about that. And so the art world here in Boulder is struggling a little, and I want to see it really rise to a more of a national attention. Denver is amazing. It's got some good support. It's bigger. They have a lot more places for photographers and musicians to kind of play. I think we're still kind of regional, and we need help. And maybe flush out some of these. I say these egos or these ideas that have worked. We have to now hopefully lead. And with Sundance coming,
well, let's talk about with Sundance coming, because as you were talking, what I was envisioning is in the greater Pearl Street area, there could be a pop-up kind of venue that is all around kind of the local art scene here. There's going to be a lot of people in town.
Yeah.
They're going to watch some movies. They're going to eat some food. They're going to have some cocktails, but they're also going to want to explore other stuff. And can there be a spot created for kind of the artists to showcase that all the people coming in and out of town might be able to benefit from it? Maybe even at a smaller scale, do something like that at next year's Boulder Roots Music Fest.
Yeah.
Have somewhere that is right in the heart of things and that features kind of the artists.
I think it's a great idea, and I know that you taking the leadership and initiative to kind of bring a different vibe through the music festival is huge. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah,
and I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I had a great team around me, including these guys in front of us, helping to pull that together. And the Roots Music Project team was fantastic to work with.
So I want to engage in that a little differently, right? And I think we're all kind of. I'm striving for that connection. Music does that. I would love. We talked as a group to figure out how to have a pop-up during that time. It takes a lot of different variables, different real estate guys who own certain parts of the buildings to let us use the space for pop-ups and here and there. But I'm open. I don't have the ideas, Dan, but I'm also.
Well, we're already going to launch the planning for next year's fest. This year's fest, we didn't. It came together in such short period of time. First time I met Dave Kennedy was I think late May. So it was late June before we even came up with a construct of how to work together. Then also it's like, well, the festival's in like 2 months, and it was rushed to the finish line, and it was an awesome first year. But now we're gonna have some structure put into it that it's already beginning now, and start to map out kind of a bit more of an expanded experience that will probably start on Wednesday with the Music Fest kicking off on Friday.
Yeah.
But pre-events that maybe bring Sundance into it on Wednesday night. Have some things happening during the day where people are able to get to know each other around kind of forums. But we should definitely brainstorm about how to incorporate the art scene into that.
And I think that's something I'm ready. Mm-hmm. We all ask, what do you really want to? Now what? Mm-hmm. And I think for me, it's also about sharing but also figuring out how to do it in a way that's really powerful and impactful for my community. Because I got to be honest, Boulder really rose me. They brought me up as a painter. I mean, I'm very grateful for my city. I mean, this place has really given me the opportunities to shine and make beautiful art.
Yeah, there are so many interesting people in Boulder. Some have been here for decades. Some are just showing up in real time. I've met, I think I know more people in this town than almost anyone when it comes to the tech crowd. And I'm meeting brand new tech people. Had a great dinner a couple nights ago. My wife and I had Steak 316 with an entrepreneur who's had like crazy success in San Francisco, and and he's even doing something with his dad in Mexico, in Pittsburgh, and Chicago. Multiple ventures. And I'm like, I didn't even know you were here. Like, where do you live? Well, right across the street from your buddy. That's one of numerous examples that, fortunately, the Music Fest gave us the opportunity to meet more of those people, even though I thought I'd met them all already. But there's another dozen plus that I got to know through the orchestration of the Music Fest, who want the same thing from Boulder that you're expressing, that I'm expressing. That we want community. We want everyone to get to know each other, and this be a mecca for people getting along, whether you're at this stage of life or that stage of life, this profession, that profession, doesn't really matter. Let's this side of the aisle or that side of the aisle. Let's make this a community where people really get a lot out of each other. I think that's maybe the theme.
And I just to add that, I think we have so much to offer each other, right? Yeah. And I think we get blinded sometimes with our silos of how we label things. Mm-hmm. And I love music, and I love art, and that supposedly is a platform for us to really transcend these negative thoughts and not make everything so divisive.
Yes.
And like you and I are sitting here like, that's my goal, Dan. I run a great art practice. I've been so fortunate to be an artist, but there's more for us.
Yeah, in the spirit of not being divisive, I take back that earlier comment about Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
I apologize. So let's go back to you. And, I want to go back to, as I look in this room, I don't see imagery of, abstract imagery of people, but you showed me the Peyton Manning, and there's certainly an abstract imagery of Peyton Manning. How much art have you done that includes imagery of, of living, other people? Well, really people. That's I say that selfishly, just so you know, because almost all the art that I've chosen has abstract representations of people in there one way or the other.
I think it's each artist is different. Like for me, I don't see figures. I see shapes and colors, which tell stories of movement and healing and love. So doing the Peyton Manning thing was really hard because I had to find a new structure.
So that was truly a one-off.
That was a one-off. I'm not doing that again.
No.
I mean,
I was just about to commission a really nice piece of work.
But I would say to you and challenge the audience, and like when you work with Will Day and most other artists who are in the abstract world, you have to trust the process of their.
No, I love abstract. I mean, everything we do is everything I buy or influence, buying. And I think my wife's largely the same way, maybe not as extreme as me. Abstract. That's everything.
But remember, there's these different movements and times of what abstract art meant to the world, right? In the turn of the century, in the 1940s and 50s, basically after World War II, is when that really came about, and
presumably heavily influenced by the trauma of
a lot of wartime trauma. But we go back in time with some of the abstract artists. Wassily Kandinsky, he was born in the late 1800s, 1900s. He comes around and he lives through two different wars, and obviously immigrated from Russia, and he's been all over the place. He was, one of the grandfathers of abstract expressionism. What does that mean? That means he was able to take experiences and he broke away from the figure form, and he was able to use music and harmony and rhythm to really tell a new storyline.
How did he use music and harmony and rhythm?
That's a good question. He loved music, so you can see some of his shapes or notes. Yeah. And so he broke those notes off. I mean, you could sort of see the evolution
seen art like that in his.
And it's pretty special because he wasn't so large scale, but his ideas were monumental. And so for me, that's one of my influences, because he was able, at a time of extreme difficulty in war, able to make a living, paint, but also be a forward thinker and transcend the now into something that's going to be used as references for future artists. And remember, for me and most other artists, we're referring back to a lot of these amazing artists for examples to really...
And inspirations, yeah.
Inspirations.
So maybe a little bit more on the progression of your art over, let's see, if it's 2008 to 2025, so it's...
Some years.
About 17 years?
Yeah.
So can you think of it as
Just
periods for
timelines,
you and how it might have evolved, or is that...
No,
really
no.
not
I
how it
mean,
works?
Dan, those are great. It's funny because I haven't sat and thought about these, in my studio. Oh, let me tell you about the story. My book's already written. Can't believe it, But just think of the 2010 period, crucial. That was the make or break. Yeah. And after I kind of got into a gallery, working with the Steamboat Gallery, having success, that was kind of the start. And so from that, I had another couple galleries that I worked with from across the country. But the struggle was really the constant idea of how do I generate revenue to support myself on a monthly basis. And there's no right answer, but for me, trying to say I'm a full-time artist, that was a massive struggle. My wife had to go back to work, which she didn't like. I didn't have insurance. And so the 2010 to 2014 was a really tough time, because that's when our kids were young. We were really struggling still financially, and we didn't know if we were going to make it. We didn't know if we were going to stay here. My kids, we took them out of private school, and then we realized that we got to manage our priorities differently. And so art was, for my wife, a job. For me, it was like, so beautiful. I love it. But also I knew I had to be responsible.
Yeah.
And so I think that type of art, what I was creating that time, was really fast, very high-powered, very anxious, and very kind of, I wouldn't say dark, but it was very...
You see the emotion in it.
Yeah, very different type of emotion, what you're seeing now.
Yeah.
So the phases for me and success were, it wasn't because I was in a gallery, I'm selling a lot of art. It was like, when am my wife and I going to jive that I am a full-time artist? My family sees me as a full-time artist. My family supports mentally. I'm leading my family as an artist, spiritually, mentally, and financially. That's a very, very tough thing to run.
Yeah. And as you look back at your art from that period, you see that in your art.
I see the art, and also I can see very kindly is like throughout the period, there's some stuff that, having ADHD, I would be on some of the, taking some of the medicines and stuff, and you can see my art all over the place. And so that was just me, like, I'm trying to figure out me, and so having these different, I wouldn't say disabilities, different challenges, my art fluctuated through my emotions, my moods, and my anxieties. And today, now after, then that led us up to COVID. So I had these 5, 6, 7 years of, hey, where am I? What's my voice? Is this really going to happen? The ups and downs are just really difficult. And so between, the period of 2010 to 2014 and 15, that was challenging, because my art and my expectations of my family were like little above me. I'm like, I can't do what we want to do and belong to these places and travel and all that stuff. So I was definitely depressed, in my own self, because I was here alone. The question you ask is, I'm constantly alone. It's not like you hit a button, paint by numbers, and here comes the new masterpiece. You hit this code, you do this code, look at that result. Yeah. It's everything opposite of that. And so I think that was the wake-up call for me, to saying, like, no one's going to do this. I think I have to really tell myself, do I do I really want to leave a legacy through painting, or do I need to do something else? And I always question myself all the time. But I mean, after 17 years, I know I'm doing the right thing. It may not show the right financial results I want, but I know I'm making an impact.
So now let's go through 2015 to 2019,
Yeah,
2020.
And that was a great time period. I was kind of on my high, getting accepted to different galleries in San Francisco and in New York City and in Greenwich, Connecticut. And that was just, I was rolling. I was rolling with momentum. And so the galleries invited me in. We do art shows. I would paint for the shows and exhibits. And that was really a fun run. And then I would do these partnerships with different brands. Everything from, Absolute Elix. I did one of these great campaigns. I did stuff with, the Denver Broncos. I would create all these amazing products for the world. But it was just me exploring. And so, but I still think I had the big challenge for me was really, do I really believe I'm an artist? Do I really believe this is what I'm meant to do?
You must have believed it in that time frame.
I do, but then it's like, hey, what else do I want?
Yeah.
What am I doing? Am I doing this? Do I want to get in a museum? And what does that even mean? Do I want to have, the top collector have me in the world? Do I want art critics writing about me? What do I want? And so, I think there's always something more.
Did that start influencing in 2020 and a different style of art or a different pivot?
What pivoted was obviously COVID.
Yeah.
And so when the 2019, when everything was going gangbusters, it wasn't easy, but it was like people out of money and everything was going great. Then obviously it shut down. I came in the studio every day. No one was on the road. I ripped off everything from my studio and started totally blank and tried a whole new process. And I think in 2020 was when I really started to grow as an artist. Okay. Because what you brought up earlier was disruption. Mm-hmm. Disruption and change scare us. Mm-hmm. And when you go into the dark, deep thoughts of your own inner soul and you're trying to figure out what to do, that's when some of the greatest works happen.
And that's what COVID
did for me.
You too. Yeah.
And remember, a lot of craziness, but for me, the choice in the universe is there's always going to be war, there's always going to be things that you don't agree with, there's always going to be challenges, but during times of chaos, how do you choose joy? How do you find love? Because it's always going to be there. And then there's going to be another thing, and then another thing.
Do you feel like anything's changing now? I mean, the biggest change in our world as we speak, I guess there's two themes that are the obvious ones. One thing being AI, and the other thing being Donald Trump and all the cult of personality around President Trump, and one side reacting one way, another side reacting a different way, but also the global nature of the Trump influence. Do you feel either of those two are kind of working their way into how you're thinking about?
I think it's you can go many ways with that question, but for me, and I think, and I hope, I don't understand why the world gets so micro, and they get so divisive. He will come and go. Mm. You love him or you hate him. For me as an artist,
I mean, after he does his third term, he's not going to get a fourth one.
I try to stay, Dan. I keep it in a place where I have to trust the system, but also, what does that mean? Like, I trust God created us to be here. Okay, you're going to hate so many things, like if it's Trump or if it's something else. There's always these conspiracy theories.
But the AI is huge too, right?
I haven't said it, but AI is that's a whole nother animal. I don't understand it. I appreciate. I can't change it. What I could do is figure out how to use it, embrace it. I respect, the world of technology, and it's certainly helped me in my art business. AI, I'm still new at, and
I'm more thinking of AI not from the perspective of how AI will work its way into our world, which is certainly that's happening, but also how AI. I mean, I was listening to a podcast yesterday with I forget his name, the British commentator who used to be on CNN. And he had four, technology experts on there, and they were kind of talking AI like everyone's talking AI. But some of what they were saying is, some of the most advanced,
Yes.
physics, scientists, some of what some of them are saying is, listen, it's inevitable. This is not going to be good. This is not going to be good for humankind. This is going to take over. And one even likened it to, do you really think all the chimps get together and say, what do we want to do to control the humans? Like, no, the humans control the world, the chimps don't. Well, they liken it to, the humans will be getting together saying, okay, what are we going to do to control?
Yeah.
And it's going to be so far beyond us, it's going to be like the chimps getting together talking about controlling the humans, and that's scary.
It is scary, and I don't want to, obviously misspeak, but I totally understand it. I'm aware of it. I don't know how to engage with it. I know it's there, and I'm not ignoring it. Obviously, do my research, but again, it's one of those things where there's going to be more and more subjects that I just don't understand, and I'm not going to ignore it. I'm going to try to embrace it. So I'm not going to let it make me depressed. Right. And so, I know some of the things you're working on is quantum. Quantum is something that is going to be very, we hear that buzzword a lot. And so, I don't know how to embrace it. I think it's exciting. Hopefully there's some positive things coming from AI and quantum, right?
Oh, for certain. I mean, there's definitely the train of thought that I think I subscribe to, that, that it's, these aren't going to overtake humankind. They're going to be an extension or maybe literal recreation of humankind, like a literal advancement of humankind that goes beyond just, we're using better tools to be smarter. It might be something very different than that, something humankind has never experienced. But I don't necessarily gravitate toward it being, destructive to humankind. But a lot of people do.
And I appreciate sitting down and hearing you, because you're a friend, and I know there's another angle, another world out there that you're dealing with. I'm not in front of. That I trust guys like you that can sort of like make sure there is some give and take, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
And that's what we hope for in our friends who are leading in those industries. Like, I'm trying to lead in my industry in art, but it all collides somehow, right? And so we, have to really rely on each other to hopefully have that opportunity to do the right thing.
My big optimistic hat, and I think I really believe this, is that we are going to emerge out of this period of time, and it might take 3 or 4 more years. We're going to emerge as, at least as the people in this country and maybe people across the world, in a better spot than we entered it. I think we will together, we are experiencing how destructive we could be in our conversations with one another, in our, opposition to one another's, beliefs, and our, and I think enough people are going to come through and say, that's not who the collective we want to be. That's not who we are. And, we need to get back to being able to talk to people who you might disagree with, have fun together, have experiences together. I'm hoping that's what happens as we get to the other side of the cycle. But, we're kind of probably at the peak of the cycle of, I hope, of people being so destructive around one another.
Remember, and I'm with you. And so I'm choosing the path of saying, I could be negative and I don't like a lot of things going on in the world. I get it. But for us to have these conversations, I think each one of us has to come to the table with saying, we don't have to agree with everybody.
No.
Don't start labeling and calling everybody something because you're so insecure with your positions. And again, I'm not here to judge, but I'm here to say, let's create a platform either through music, through art, through a community, through our families. Share experiences.
Yeah.
And when we start judging, that's when things go haywire. When we start can't talk because you hate this one person, that's a problem.
Yeah. And maybe you don't hate the person, you hate what they think. And therefore you extend that I hate you and I don't want to be with you. I don't want to talk to you because I know you think about this differently than I think about it. It's like, let's break those barriers down. Let's enjoy stuff together, and then maybe as an outcome of enjoy stuff, we could also start, communicating, listening, to one another. So, anyways, this has been fascinating. We're gonna pick one of these other paintings and tell us the story. Ideally, either that one up there or that one there. But if it's a different one, this is
let's go.
choice.
We could go. Let's go to the last one I finished with the one the far on the way right down there.
Yep.
Okay. And so I just finished that piece one of my favorite questions when someone asks me, what's my favorite painting?
Yep.
Well, it's the last one I did.
Okay. So let's talk about your favorite
So
painting.
my favorite
until it's
painting,
no longer
as of
your
right
favorite.
now,
Yeah.
that's my favorite painting. And there's a whimsical feel that I was trying to capture between the seasons of summer and fall, right? And so that one painting is this, it was a raw canvas. And I'd go into my paintings not knowing what I'm going to do. But you asked a great question. The seasons influence me, and the seasons influence the colors I'm going to paint, right? So yeah, it looks really summery, but the truth is that's how I see the colors right now that are around me, okay? And in this transition, this is a very playful piece that really engages my spirit and tries to say, I want to share what it's like to be youthful, to be at a place that makes me feel happy, kind of has this direction that there's no one place that you need to go, but when you look around that whole canvas, you feel some kind of joy. And one of the artists that truly influenced me on this was Joan Mitchell. And she was this incredible American painter, and in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, was able to really use line and colors and textures and let it sing in a very informal way.
What I'm seeing from this angle, and we've got a pretty, I'm sure it looks a lot different if I'm in front of it, but what I'm seeing is really healthy, vibrant plant life. That it's growing, it's at its peak of its health.
Okay, what I love, because that's how I feel right now. I'm trying to heal myself. I'm trying to grow myself again. You're like, well, I'm trying to have a rebirth with my health, my mindset, and those colors, without me knowing, that's what speaks to my soul right now. And hopefully I want to share that with the world.
Okay, so that's a good ending on a positive note, even though I like the stuff that's a little bit more complicated, but that's awesome.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
this
it,
has
bud.
been fascinating.
You too. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Bear Roars. Check out Stretch, the new song from Dan Caruso, with music by Jason Mendelson, available now on all streaming services. If you enjoyed the episode, please like and subscribe on your listening platform. This podcast was produced by Loud Bear Productions and edited by Kendall Weinberg with support from Gibson Siegert.